Elena Cardone, are you ready to dream bigger?
Oh, always.
What does it mean for you to be a gold digger?
I am a gold digger because I dig for gold in myself. I've been digging for gold since I moved out here at 17. And if I'm willing to do it in myself, then I'm certainly willing to demand and expect it of others.
Okay, Elena Cardone, are you ready to dream bigger?
Oh, always.
I love it.
Oh, I love it too.
So, what does it mean for you to be a gold digger?
Oh, well, being a gold digger is like one of the first concepts that I had a cognition about, to use something that comes at you negatively and actually flip it and use it as a sword, as a weapon. And I'll tell you what I mean. When I was in Los Angeles in my early 20s, or, always had this thing, be this independent, powerful woman, never depend on a man for anything. And so I came here and slugged it out since I was 17 years old in Los Angeles. Oh. I knew no one. So I lived all through my 20s like that. Then I met Grant Cardone and we start dating, and he was actually a guy that at that time, he's nowhere near the level we're at today, but he was definitely the wealthiest or richest guy that I had ever dated. And around his circle, like in his family and his friends, and I was an actress, and so I kept hearing, she's a gold digger, you better watch out, and she's only in it for herself. And that would have annoyed me just because I had to be right that I do it by myself and I don't need him. And it kind of caused a little bit of a conflict. Yeah. Until I looked at it and I went, you know what? I cannot let these things affect me in my life. I've got to be able to use and spin it. So then I said, if you own it, if you actually start calling yourself a gold digger, which I did, I was like, I am a gold digger. Why am I a gold digger? Because I dig for gold in myself. I've been digging for gold since I moved out here at 17 by myself, to dig for gold, to mine my own gold, to find my own way. And if I'm willing to do it in myself, then I'm certainly willing to demand and expect it of others. So I'm like, yeah, I'm a gold digger and I'm going to dig for it out of him. And I have. And I dig for it in myself.
I love that. So I want to get a little bit more into that, because I think it's really interesting that you say that, your thing was that, oh, I'm an independent woman. I'm going to do everything all on my own and I don't need anyone. How did you soften from there?
Actually, it's an interesting story that you asked me that. And I don't really usually talk about this aspect of things until recently. Yeah. But there is a book called Dianetics by L. Ron Hubbard. And it talks about, it's not a religious book, first of all. Let me just make that clarification. But it is a book on mental health and the mind. It's actually called The Modern Science of Mental Health. And I read this book and I realized there were aspects of my life that were holding me back with these compulsive, I don't even know where they came from, but these compulsive ideas that I had that were not like so much pro my survival, because I had always acted like I need to be independent. Yet it was kind of duplicitous concept, because one day I kind of wanted to be in a relationship. But the problem was I would always act and destroy and blow up every relationship. They were terrible for me. Relationships were horrible. And I thought all men cheated, all men hold me back. But I realized after I read this book that I was actually casting these people in my life to fulfill that self-fulfilling prophecy, to make myself right about all men cheat, because my whole track record, I can prove to you that they do. That was very right for me. But what I didn't know is that came from the part of the mind, it's called the reactive mind. But the reactive mind contains all the trauma and pain. Those are stored in like images and pictures that you have from those incidents that you went through. And I experienced severe death and loss, like at 14, witnessing my best friend burn in a house fire. Like, who is supposed to see that at 14 and recover from that? And I made decisions, and I didn't know I did this, but I made decisions out of that moment to never love, never let my heart get shattered again. I mean, I experienced debilitating pain at that age.
Like tremendous
It
loss.
was very tremendous and traumatic and like stressful.
Yeah.
And then I made decisions, never let anyone get close and never love and be strong and never depend on anyone. And so the point of all of that is, and then of course I turned to self-medication with the drugs and the alcohol to try to relieve those mental image pictures that I could not stop. And plus I'd walk out of my house every single day, and guess what? There was her burnt out house that I had to stare at every day. It was literally like re-stimulating that thing that I didn't even know was causing me to self-implode.
Yeah.
So back to this independent, powerful woman thing. How did I uncover that? It's this book that I realized that you can do these little therapeutic procedures, and it's so easy. And I have been trying all kinds of therapies. If you want to call drugs and alcohol a therapy, I tried that one too. Didn't work for me. And just very short amount of time, I was able to like alleviate all of that charge and upset, and those calculations that came out of that part of the mind no longer controlled me. It's not like it erased it. I still remember it. I can still recall it. I can even still get emotional about it because a situation like that would call for an emotion of pain, but it shouldn't affect every single life's decision going forward that stops you from making pro-survival decisions. And then when I got with Grant and I realized now I'm married to a man for 4 years and I'm still operating with, I have to be this independent woman, and we were fighting each other all the time. It was like we would go out and both try to work, and come home and destroy. And it wasn't until I was able to eradicate those irrationalities in myself that I could actually make up my own mind with my own analytical mind, where I could look at something analytically and say, why can't I trust a man to do his job in the relationship? And I've been married to him for 4 years. I intend to be with him for the rest of my life. It is not logical to have to be this independent woman, try to make it all on myself, not do strength in numbers, not do collaboration. Like, that's not sanity. And once I became sane and I could say, I can depend on you, you can depend on me, not worry about all the other voices out there, not worrying about my own insecurities, irrationalities, but actually come together and say, you know what? We are going to do this. There's the big picture. This is what we're going for. This is my role and how we're going to get there. This is your role and how we're going to get there. We stopped fighting each other. We started working together in a coordinated effort to reach heightened levels of success. And I wouldn't have had that had I not had the book Dianetics.
I mean, when I look at someone like yourself and what you and Grant have built together, it's really incredible. Like, you guys have and I think that it wouldn't have been possible without the both of you guys together. You know, it's so important because you both have different roles clearly, and I would love for you to get into like what that means. How did you guys define your roles? How did you decide what you were going to do? And how did you make it successful? Because people work with a partner, even a co-founder, and they're butting heads. How did you guys figure out who does what?
Well, we looked at where we wanted to go. We both got on the same page with our purpose in life. And then we said, you know, we really have to look at each other's strengths and weaknesses. We started there. And clearly Grant's a businessman. I was always an artist. I didn't know anything about business. So why pretend just because we're equal in marriage that we're equal in business? I mean, Grant is my senior in business. He understands finances. He was already successful. So, you know,
Playing on his strengths, essentially.
His strengths. So, you know, it was a hard pill to swallow because I had always operated with that irrationality. But once I was able to give that up and go, you know what? He's going to do the business. So he's the boss in the business. He's the IC, the in charge of this role, this role, this role. You're going to do this, this, this. You're going to do the money. You're going to do this. And then I was like, okay, what am I good at? I am good at, I am good at architecture. I'm good at the visualization, the big think. And so I'm good at supporting. And that was another one that I had to really get okay with. The support role was a big button for me. I'll get into that in a minute if you want me to.
Yes, please.
But I was able to go, you know what? I would be better served to have this picture, which, by the way, when I say this picture, I'm back in time now in 2008 before this picture, which is right now, even existed. It was so insane for me to even be thinking like this. But I'm the visionary. I'm the support. Okay, I'm going to create a distraction-free home. I'm never going to tell you, you know, when is work enough or you're home too late. Like, find the one you trust and build an empire. I did that with him. I trust him. So it was like, this is your target. You're going to go become a billionaire. Why? Whole other story. You know, when I said you go be a billionaire, he was like, when is enough for you? But I had a reason, because I have this vision, right? And I'm like, you are a man of magnitude and power. And if you are not going, and your vision, he wanted to reach 8 billion people on planet Earth. That was big picture, right? You want to reach 8 billion people. You want to have, you know, influence. You want to teach financial literacy and success. You can't just be a millionaire. There's, you know, especially now with social media, everyone's a self-proclaimed millionaire. Who the frick cares? Can you hang on to it? Can you build it? Can you grow it? There's so many levels to the game. I said, you have to be like a billionaire. Plus, we had met a couple at the time, which, you know, and I thought, why do they get to play on the big league? They're not helping all the quote unquote little people like me, like Grant. I never went to college. Like, I'm not supposed to be here. But if we were able to do that, you know, then it would all be worth it. So I created the environment, distraction free. You focus on this. And the house and the household, I'm the boss. You're going to ask me when we have kids and this and that. Everything gets run by me. The vacations, the people in our lives. I am a fierce protector. People don't realize that. They think I'm the sweet and friendly one, and I am. But when you cross me, you're out. Grant, oh God, he'll give you a million chances. Like, he needs to be protected. Like, you know, I won't let him know that, because, you know, he's got to be his own determined man as well. But you better guarantee you that the people that come into his world that are in a direct line with him, I have vetted them. I have my whole checklist of items that they have to pass. Like, you know, there are the red flags checklist. And if they don't qualify to be in the inner circle, because I say empires are destroyed from within.
Yes. I agree with that.
I'm very happy to know who my enemies are. I don't like my enemies, but hey, it is a sign that you're playing on a big enough game. However, the danger is the enemies within that you think are your friends, that know everything, that can destroy, corrupt the rest of the group. So I will go in and, you know, carve them out. I have my allies in the whole space, you know, and then if I need backup, I go to my trusted ally and I'm like, don't let them in, don't, you know, just, and then he doesn't know, he doesn't get the call, it doesn't filter through, and he doesn't even know, and then we're all happy. But these are the different roles that we do. You know, I've got to run the kids and the family and make sure they're all well. I'm so busy trying to juggle that ball. I'm not interfering on his business. So it makes it easy even when I'm in the business, because no matter what, he's the senior in the business. And if he says no, it's a no. And it sucks.
So I want to talk about the supporting role that you talked about.
Yes.
Because, you know, what's really interesting is I think there's a negative connotation to supporting, and it really shouldn't be, because I think that the person wouldn't exist if there wasn't a support system, and especially a key supporter. You go.
Were you going to ask me? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
I'm excited and passionate about this subject, because you have no idea with be the independent, powerful woman I thought was in my DNA to my core. to swallow the pill of support was so difficult until I went to the dictionary and I said, what is this word support and what does it mean and why do I protest it so much? There's many definitions in the dictionary of the word support, but two stood out for me in particular. One is it shows to show active interest in the success of. Okay, let me analyze that for a second. So a man has a woman that shows active interest in the success of him. Do I need to apologize for that? That sounds pretty freaking amazing.
I mean, as you should,
who wouldn't
yeah.
want somebody like that? So I was like, okay, I don't need to apologize there. The other definition, and I'm paraphrasing, but it means to bear the weight of. And then you know how it gives you the little example or the sentence, to bear the weight of. Think about this. If you're a support beam, because it says like a support beam, if you're the support beam, wouldn't you have to be stronger than the thing that you are bearing the weight of?
It would collapse without it.
Exactly. So you mean the fact that I am the support beam to Grant Cardone. For anyone that doesn't know who my husband is, that alone would break half the population or more of the planet. But to support Grant Cardone and everything that comes along with that, I thought I will never apologize for being stronger than Grant Cardone ever again. I own that. It's another thing from Gold Digger that I learned to use and flip it. Like no woman or man should ever apologize for being the support, because when you really understand that you are the support beam, the stronger of the two, I'm like, bow down in the presence of.
Yes. And I actually, I love having this conversation because even though, again, like the support has been negatively connotated for whatever the reason, I don't think anyone would see you on social media or meet you in person and be like, this is not a powerful, empowered woman. Like, you are so incredibly powerful. And I think it's such a good example to other women as well that you can kind of hold that duality,
Totally. That's the thing. I think it's a myth. And I honestly think from some sort of conspiracy line that we have been indoctrinated with that so that men and women don't work together, so that you have a crack, because I can only go so far on my own, period. I can hit 100% and that is it. And the same for Grant. Grant always was going to be successful because he is a very powerful man and he has abilities and he is capable and able. However, what I claim is the height of Grant that he could hit for himself, the height and level of success, that's mine. That's what I take credit for. I don't take credit for any of that. That's not mine. I take credit for this.
I think you are able to go further together.
That's the thing. It's strength in numbers. I am
Always.
So much stronger, more powerful, more certain, more confident since I've been with Grant, who I have had to confront so many considerations, thoughts, ways of doing things. So I think it's extremely ironic that the person I wanted least to learn from, a man, is actually the one who I've learned the most from and become more powerful and strong and even independent, but yet dependent, if that makes any sense.
And by the way, I think it goes the other way around as well, because I think your partner also needs you and learns from you, and it that's what it is. It's a relationship that is it goes both ways.
Totally. And I'm definitely not speaking on behalf of Grant when I say this. I don't like to speak for other people, but I've heard him say this, and it really it does make me happy. That's a secret. You're not supposed to like or seek validation, but it does feel nice to be acknowledged. And he has said multiple times, without Elena's vision and even the fact that he claims I have this magic. He was like, I used to think she was this rainbows and magic foo-foo chick. Now I don't even doubt it. Like, because I operate in a different space that he is not accustomed to, because I get to have the visions and he has to go down to the physical and the work, to the punch through, to actually make it create and manifest.
I love that. And I also really believe that I think, and I actually, both Nish and I, we work with a coach who kind of has been teaching us this, where I think we have all been indoctrinated to think that everyone is meant to work one specific way. And if you don't work in that one way, then you are like not worthy or you're not successful. And I think like my husband Nish is my co-founder, and we do very different functions of the business. And it's like the strength in numbers thing. I don't touch what he touches and he doesn't touch what I touch, because why would two people be doing the same thing when one is clearly better at it than the other? And that's like, everyone has their strengths. Why would you not play to those?
Grant's like, I don't need two me's. Like, we don't need both of us
1,000%.
running through the wall. And frankly, I don't want to run through the wall. Let him run through the wall.
Exactly. And it's like, it's very much the same thing for us, where I have like the vision when it comes to the business. Okay, like these are the products that I think should happen, or like this is how certain things should be structured. Nish can go into the details and the weeds and make that happen. You know what I mean? Like, those are two very different functions.
Very different functions.
And we are both okay with leaning into our strengths. That's what has made our business as big as it is. Mm-hmm. So I actually want to talk about, when we were starting this conversation before we started, you said that at the point where you guys had thought you were going to lose things, you said that when you were going to be at this point, you'd be helping everyone else. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that was back in 2008 when the economy collapsed and we were on the verge of losing everything financially. And then of course I had the vision of where we would be right now. And so we just made a vow to each other at that phase that if we ever did make it, we were in 2008, it was pre all the social media stuff. But I never had a mentor. I never had a woman behind the man. I never had like somebody to go and lay out the roadmap to success or teach applicable data on marketing, sales, follow-up, how to hold or how to hire, like everything inside the business, or how to even run a family or a marriage. Or I didn't know all of these. It was trial and error, and books like I just told you about, the Dianetics book that's kind of helped me to see other areas that I couldn't see. It was occluded to me. So, so we made a vow. And so I really there's another concept by L. Ron Hubbard. And the moment I landed on this concept, it changed the trajectory of our life forever. And I'll tell you what it is. It's simple. It's called be, do, have. And most people think that they have to have before they can be. You think you have to have the Oscar or the TV series to be an actor or to claim it. But it's actually a reverse order.
Yes.
You have to be it first. So back in 2008, what had happened was I had never had massive success. Grant had had some success, but it wasn't permanent because it only took one thing, like an economic collapse, and we were in danger of losing it all. That's not like abundance of success that can be hit. So at that moment, I was like, okay, be, do, have. There's the have. What does it want? I want world travel. I want planes. I want to help people get back to the community. I want all of us to come up together in the future. I want all of it sounds ridiculous. 100 million. Oh my God, that was such a stupid concept. Why am I even thinking a billion? That would never happen for people like me and Grant. But that's the have. That was in the future. But then I assumed that to be reality in the present, where the beingness of a billionaire, of a family, of a wife. I never had that in 2008. I was pregnant with my first child, but I didn't really have reality on like kids. But how do I be a good mom? You got to wear the hat right now, the beingness. It doesn't mean to go buy Ferraris that you don't have. That's imposter stupid. That's not what people with money do. They're smart with money.
Thank you.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Thank you for saying that, though, because people think like, and I deeply believe in this concept as well. And it's like, people will say things like, oh, well, if I'm not there yet, shouldn't I just go buy the designer bag? I'm like,
No.
what do you think?
Oh
How do you think wealthy people build wealth? Like, it's
they're
so
not dumb.
So stupid.
So stupid. So that's what I looked at. I was like, okay. And I don't know if you remember the brand BB, and I shopped at BB and Target and Forever 21.
Yes.
I didn't have my first Chanel thing until I was almost 40.
I love that you say that.
I just didn't. You cannot, no one can find, we didn't take trips. We didn't take vacations for 11 years.
Wow.
Not one. You can't find one.
Wow.
Anyway, because Grant says pay the price so you can pay any price in the future. But back to this be, do, have concept. I put the picture in the future and I said, that is happening no matter what. What do I have to do now to connect the bridge from the beingness to the doingness? What do I have to do? I've taken 5 finance courses. You know, Celebrity Center's right over there. I thought this, like when I lived here in the beginning, I didn't know I had an abundance of resources. I didn't know that a church and a religion teaches about finance courses, because I'm also a Catholic. I haven't denounced my Catholicism, but that's my faith-based religion. And I didn't in Catholicism, they don't give me a marriage course or how to overcome ups and downs in life or knowing who to trust or prosperity and finances and personal values and integrity and a communication course. So Scientology is like my applied religion. Anyhow, what do I have to do? I have to know about finances. I have to know about communication. I have to get my confidence to be able to speak to anyone. I also have to be able to understand sales, marketing. I need to understand how to be a good mother, a good wife. All of these courses I started to take because that's who I am in my future self. And I wasn't right then in 2008. I didn't know. I didn't have the resources. I didn't have the confidence because I didn't have the knowledge. So the difference is now, back in 2008, not now, but as if I'm back, I said, okay, I'm going to be all of these things now. I'm going to take all of the actions. And here's the thing. When a deal, because we were desperate for money back then, when a deal didn't go through, it was like, you have 2 choices. We can either cave in and be devastated, or I can be the billionaire. If in 5 years, when that picture, which is the future, you will agree, the future comes like this, right? Because that picture's got to come. It's not going to stay in the future. You turned 13. That used to be your future when you were 5. Yeah. But you admit that that future picture hits you in present time and then becomes your past. So the biggest successful action is from be, do, have. We lived from the future instead of the past. Most people live past, present, future. But why can't you live from future into the present? And it changed the mindset of everything, because now it was no longer a loss that reverted back to the failure and this part of the mind that keeps you closed in and see, that didn't work. You see, you're a loser, you're a failure. The diet didn't work. That program didn't work. This didn't work, because it was always going back from, you see, it didn't work. It didn't work. Whereas now I went, oh, I had to fail forward to learn. Okay, now I need a pipeline. I need to do more marketing, promote. I need to do every course I took. It was never a waste of time. Everything was now, this is what I needed to go through to expand myself to become my future self. So the whole mindset started to change from that moment. And now that picture actually came in the past. So now, in a new unit of time, Grant and I, in the last couple of years, have created a new future picture, which is even crazier than the last one. But I've done it before. And I know when that picture crosses us, it's going to make everything that we've done in the past look like child's play.
I love that. So I want to talk about how you navigate motherhood, because you have kids. How were you able to do it all, I guess? And I know that's a fallacy a little bit, but how are you able to navigate both, being this woman in the public eye? You're very powerful. You are part of a very successful business. And then you also have kids. How are you able to do both?
Well, I have indoctrinated the kids since they were very young. I've always treated them with respect, even though they're, little beings in little bodies. I've treated them with respect since they were very little. I've given them their own self-determinism over their toys or their things. You can destroy this. You're going to need to earn another 20 stars on the star board before you get another one, but you can do whatever you want with it. I gave them a lot of creativity to find themselves. And I've told them from when they were very little, your mom and papa are superheroes. We're superheroes? Yes, because we help people. We want to make a difference for the better. And this is how we do it. We have events, we have trainings, and this helps other families. And when they apply this, and I know you told me earlier,
Yes.
you read the 10X rule
Yes, and it
applied. Applied it.
Yes.
And you built it. It wasn't Grant's book, but you applied something that you learned and it made a difference.
For sure, hugely. And like I was telling Elena this, but I read Grant's book 5 years ago when we were just starting Array, and I like remember calling my husband Nish, and I was like, oh, like I just read this book and these are the learnings and we should apply it. And there were so many things in there that really stood out to me, and still to this date, like I think in his book, and I'm gonna misquote it, but he basically talks about how if you put in the work, but then you also have a great product, like of course you're going to succeed, because there's so much bullshit out there where people are just putting in the work and that's succeeding. So I was always like, okay, there's all this like shit product on the market and these companies have made it. That means obviously we can be 10 times bigger than any of them. You know
That
what
is
I
so
mean?
brilliant. And that's what I told the kids when they were 1 and 3 and 2 and 4. Families get better by Papa's information. And then they get to afford to buy toys for their kids and go out to Chuck E. Cheese or whatever it was. And they could understand that. And so I said, so when, and then I said, oh, do you want to be superheroes too? And they were like, yes. And I was like, okay, well, what do you want to do to exchange or contribute? Do you want to be okay if we have to leave you for the weekend so that we can go in front of all these people so their families can get better? And if you do, then you're in charge of the nanny. She thinks she's taking care of you, but you take care of them. If we're on the road and we don't have to think about you and you don't have an accident or a problem, that's contributing and you're a superhero, because whether you were there or not, literally, I'm saying this to a 2-year-old.
Wow.
And I'm saying you're not there, but you're contributing because you're not pulling our attention, and our attention can be with them and we can help them. And that's how you can exchange and be a superhero for these people. So from very young, and now they're 14 and 16. So now they understand, but now they're under contracts with us. They exchange, they raise money for the companies, they sell my tickets. Scarlett, my youngest, sold the highest 1 week she beat all the sales team and did the highest and sold the most 10X ladies tickets for me. And so they're constantly in exchange with us.
I love that. And I love that you kind of instilled those values at such a young age, because you hear the term like nepo baby, oh, they don't have to do anything, their parents are successful, but clearly I have always found that if your parents are successful, like you can either take that and ruin it for yourself,
Right,
and the legacy dies with you, or you can use that to your advantage and make it even bigger.
that's what they're doing. They're
Yeah.
spectacular. These kids are extraordinary. But to tie a bow on that final question, so then after explaining everything to the kids so they understand there's times when I'm there, there's times when I'm not there, but I always explain, you're number one. I am always going to pick family first. However, that doesn't mean you will always get picked first in that circumstance. If they only want my attention because they're bored, then I have to be artfully have somebody there that's fun and young and that can distract them for the next hour that I need to get the job done. However, when they really need me, I have a post and a person who can take care of those, a trusted source that can get my work done for me when I have to be with the family, because that's the most important thing to me. So at some point you have to delegate. I had to learn from myself that I'm not the superhero. I can't do everything. It's a juggling act. I'm not a balancer. People always ask me, how do you do work-life balance? That's somebody else. Go find them. I don't do balance. I do juggling. What needs to happen now, and how do I delegate who does what to help me do essentially what I want, what's the highest and best usage of my time in that moment. And as I've hit different levels, then more people, and we've afforded to have more people in those roles. Whereas before, it kind of did start off as just me, and it was harder. But as you build, you can start now trusting other people in those positions.
I love that. I also want to talk about how you instill like values to your kids. So of course you were telling them from a young age that like, you know, you guys are superheroes. But I was telling you off air that one of my team members showed me a video of one of your daughters talking about how they're making money and how they're working. How do you instill that? Because I'm sure other parents are also curious. I mean, you've clearly raised some very eloquent and smart children.
Yes, we've homeschooled them. Not me. I was terrible in school. But yes, we've had the tutors and they've been homeschooled.
Wow.
Sabrina finished high school at 15. That's my oldest. She's 16 now. They've also done a ton of courses. So I just want to say this. They've, you know, ever since they were 5 years old, they were doing kid courses over at the Church of Scientology. They've done communication courses. They've also done a personal values and integrity course. They've done confidence course, a course on confidence, knowing who to trust. So they have their own thoughts and ideas, and now they can look at their friends for themselves without me having to say, I don't like that person. They can look at that person. There's a thing called a tone scale, and it exists whether you know it or not. Like, I'll give you an example. Somebody of a high tone would be somebody cheerful and enthusiasm and like, but like legit for real, not like as a facade, right? And then as you come down this tone scale, you would go into something a little more conservative or a little boredom or mild interest versus strong interest. And it kind of goes down from there into like, you know, the people that pretend to be really nice, but they're really stabbing you in the back. That would be a level of covert hostile. And there's with that tone scale, again, that tone scale, I've said it a lot and I didn't mean to, but you're asking very interesting questions.
No, and this is fascinating.
I would be remiss to not tell you the truth.
Of course, no, I love it.
So again, this tone scale comes from L. Ron Hubbard, and there's an actual course that you can do to study these tone levels because they come with specific behaviors that you can spot and certain indicators to be able to identify toxic people and what you're looking for versus the really high-toned person who you can trust and do business with and be in a relationship with versus, you know, the different tones. And then as you come down, there would be terror and fear and grief and apathy, and you can start to see all the tone levels and really study what each tone level you can expect out of that tone level. So these kids have done these courses. So now I don't have to be like, you got to do it this way. You got to do it that way. The kids have their own reality because they've studied concepts that they can apply, just like the 10X rule. You applied concepts with that. They can apply concepts in their life. So, so that's one of the biggest things that we've done.
So you taught them essentially to be like independent thinkers, because it's interesting, like we do courses and we like go out to like learn these like life skills as we're older, right?
Yes.
But I feel like kids are not taught those things at a young age at all.
No. And they've also been taught how to study. So there's actually a technology on study. It starts off like a very easy kid book called, and every mother should get this book. It's called The Basic Study Manual. And it teaches you how to study. I was at school. I thought I was dumb. I'm an artistic person. I'm a visualizer. There's manifestations for existence that occur when you go past a word you don't understand. It's called the misunderstood word phenomenon. And one of those phenomena exhibits itself in nervous hysteria. And so I was a very hyperactive kid because I was going past all these words I didn't understand. There's another phenomena where when you go past a word you don't understand, you go into a blankness, a not there, a non-comprehension. So I was going past these words and nobody told me or helped me to say, what does goat mean? You assume everyone knows what a goat means, but let's pretend like 4-year-old Elena didn't know what a goat was. I don't know if they have horns, don't have horns. Is it similar to a wolf? Is it, you know what I mean? So the rest of the material would go into non-comprehension for me. So I thought I was dumb, and they put me in the slow learning class, and I was always hyper. And fortunately, because of my age, it wasn't this mass, let's put the kids on ADHD drugs, or they would have put me on that, because I'm a prime candidate for being put on that. But all that comes from is no one taught me how to learn. And no one taught me, just give me the definition and a picture of what the thing is, and then I can comprehend. So I learned that I'm not dumb, and I'm actually self-educated now, and I'm highly intelligent, and I've increased my intelligence multiple points. Whereas the rest of the class society wants to say you're born and you can never change your intelligence. Well, I'm a testament that that's not true.
Oh my God, it is absolutely not true. And I think people who believe that is like you are only keeping yourself stuck, because I mean, we should, as we get older, continue to be curious and want to learn and want to improve. It's one of the landmarks, I think, of a successful person.
Right. And so my children, they never go past a misunderstood word. They have this study technology. I told you one little piece. There's actually, I won't get into it, but there's 3 barriers to study, and they all have their own phenomenon. So my kids know how to study. I remember when I had them in school, this is years before I pulled him out. I pulled him out, I think, in 2018 or 19, way before COVID. But I remember my daughter, who was in kindergarten at the time, came home, and because I told her, she came home and asked me what this thing meant, this one word. And I said, well, did you ask your teacher? And she said, my teacher just told me to go back to my seat, and whatever I think it is, make it be that. Can you believe that? That was what they were. That's how I was indoctrinated. So anyway, you asked me about values and why my kids, if you look at their videos and how articulate, and they've spoken on stages in front of 34,000 people at Marlins Stadium when they were like 6 and 8, and they come across, they do things that adults can't do in their speeches and their intellect, and so it's really. It's because they've been given this knowledge at a very young age on how to learn and educate themselves.
I love that. When did you start to speak publicly?
Well, that was when Grant did his very first 10X Growth Conference. It was for entrepreneurs. I've never thought of myself as an entrepreneur. I've always thought of myself as an artist. And I don't know how to start and create a business, especially back then. That was, 10 years ago. But Grant said, I want you to speak. Now, I've come from acting. I can be in front of a camera. I've done acting classes. So I didn't have a fear of speaking. I knew I could pull that part off, but I had a deep insecurity on what was I going to talk about, because I didn't feel like I had anything to offer an entrepreneur, because I invalidated myself a little bit. And then I said, well, what is it that I do know? And by that time, 10 years ago, from all this technology that I've been telling you about and all these cognitions and wins, I realized I'm going to talk about how I figured out how to work together as a couple and strengthen numbers and power and the roles and our successful actions that took us from prior to that realization and cognition and that part of the mind that I was able to eliminate. Prior to that, Grant and I, our biggest game was fighting each other. And it wasn't until the be, do, have and living from the future and coming up with the big, it wasn't until all that. So that's what I spoke about. And it was a huge, phenomenal hit. I assumed everyone was kind of living like that. And then I realized, no one knew those concepts. So then people wanted more and more and more and more. And I didn't realize how much people wanted to hear from the support role person and who's running and operating and maintaining the family. Yeah. So from that point on, I just sort of built, and then I wrote the book and Build an Empire, How to Have It All.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so my last question is, there's a lot of women who feel like they can't be unapologetic about the things that they want in life, that they're being like selfish or greedy or materialistic. What would you say to them?
Well, it's interesting. I'm going to tell anyone, first of all, and I'm going to reel it back. I would tell any woman, if you can get your hand on that book, Dianetics, and at least get through the first 5 or 6 chapters. It was a difficult book for me, somebody before I became self-educated and really studied technology, how to get through that book. But if you can get through the beginning, you're going to understand that a lot of those ideas, concepts come from that pain and trauma, and you've made calculations. So I don't know the circumstance, but once you get confident in yourself and who you are, your values, what your mission is, and you don't have that attachment to that reactive mind, you won't have those disabilities, those irrationalities. You will be able to own your power without also making somebody else wrong for it. Because prior to me becoming evolved now, I was this independent woman, but I also at that time needed to make a man wrong. You know, my part of that was, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to ask you. I don't need you for anything. So when I was in this relationship, and yeah, they were wrong and they cheated and they did this and they all did that. But my responsibility was I was treating them like, I don't need you. So what did they do? They found somebody who appreciated them and needed them, you know? So it's be unapologetic. Own yourself, get rid of that part of the mind, and you will be able to fully be you without even have to be worried about being unapologetic, and without making anyone else wrong. You can own your greatness and be an inspiration to others. And then it becomes from a different mindset versus I have to be unapologetic to, you know what, it's my duty to become successful so that I can help all the other people become successful, and I can share my goods and my services and my products with others. And for them to not have it, and for me not to share it with them is actually a transgression, because I know my products are going to be good for people, whether they know it or not. So it's my job to push it on them and to make them, you know, participate in those products. And when you get to that place, life becomes easy and fun.
I love that. And I've loved this conversation, Elena. Tell everyone where they can find you.
They can find me at Elena Cardone, ELENA, Cardone.com. If you're interested in the Dianetics piece, you can go to my own personal link, ElenaCardone.com/success. Or you can just go online or in a bookstore and find the book. If you want to know some of the other courses that I was talking about, relationships, overcoming ups and downs in life, some people's life's a roller coaster. You want to know about some of the study technology, then you can go to ElenaCardone.com/help.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. This was a joy.
Thank you. You're amazing. Thanks for having me and trusting me with your audience.
It was so fun. So
awesome.
fun.
You're awesome.